and welcome to this meeting of the Syracuse Planning Commission. We have a lot of public hearings this evening. We will begin them very shortly. Before we do that, however, we have some regular housekeeping business to take care of, namely action on the minutes of our May meeting. Those minutes have been distributed to the commission members in advance of this evening. Is there a motion on those minutes?
Before you make a motion, I would ask that you clarify which minutes, because there were also corrected minutes from the April meeting.
May 15th.
Okay?
Right.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. So noted. We also have corrected minutes circulated for the April 24th meeting. Those have been also circulated in advance. There's a motion to adopt the corrected minutes.
Move approval for the amended minutes.
Thank you. I will second that. Any discussion on the motion?
I have a question, I guess. On the 24th? Yes. Because the stipulation that was added to the minutes was with respect to the friendly amendment to my amendment about clarifying periodic review process. But the original amendment was my amendment, which stated that we wanted clarification of the procedure for amendment of the zoning map and the zoning ordinance in 5.6 paragraph 2A and B. So that was not in the minutes. So I'm just wondering if that should be added to the minutes or not. Ask as a question.
Because it was explicitly discussed, and I'll take this opportunity to let you know that we were having some problems with OneDrive, so when I rewrote the resolution to include your specific motion and friendly amendments, it didn't save into it. We've all been having that problem, so that's going to come to you yet again, Steve, to sign with a specific amendment. But yeah, it sounds like the minutes.
So if the April 24th minutes require further revision, which it sounds like they do, the commission may wish to not act on the corrected minutes and give me another 3 weeks to get my act together and get them corrected.
Right, I mean, I'm asking as a question. To what extent the minutes should reflect that. If that's the case, then they should be added to the minutes.
So then, based on Commissioner Lentz's comment regarding those minutes, perhaps the mover and the seconder might withdraw.
I'll withdraw the motion and we'll
revisit this
relive
item
this, right? We'll relive this again.
at our next meeting later this month. Okay. That concludes our action on the minutes. To date, we will now move into the public hearings for this evening. Just a reminder for those who are perhaps new to the process, as each application is announced by a member of the staff, we ask that the applicant or their representative come to the podium in the middle of the room, provide their name and address for the record, and then a brief summary of the application involved. Following questions from the commission members, we will invite members of the public who wish to speak in favor of the application to do so. And then similarly, we will invite members of the public who wish to speak in opposition to the application for an opportunity to do that as well. When comments are made either for or against, we ask that people be mindful of the time and confine their comments either direction to 2 minutes. And where comments are made in opposition, we will encourage the applicant to return to the podium and address the comments made in opposition. So with that, we have a long agenda. We will get started and move as quickly and efficiently and responsibly as we can as we proceed through each of these applications.
The first public hearing this evening is CA 23-01A, an appeal of a certificate of appropriateness decision of denial by the Landmark Preservation Board to replace 140 windows and an entrance door on property situated at 350 Montgomery Street. Shalimar Properties 407 LLC is the owner. Michael Frasina is the applicant, and the property lies within a central business district, office and service district. And this is a continuation of a public hearing that started on April 3rd and was last continued on May 15th.
Good evening. My name is David Hercola. I'm an attorney with the Syracuse Law Offices. We represent the owner of this property. Let me start out by saying I thank you for your patience with this. You've adjourned this a number of times, so we appreciate that. To update you on where we are with the process, we did resubmit a modified application, met with the Planning Commission, took in, or the Landmark Preservation Board, excuse me, took in their comments relative to the Munton matter with the windows. We now are hopeful that we've reached a resolution, although I'm not speaking for the Preservation Board. They still have to vote on that. And in discussions with Kate Allwater, who's been a pleasure to work with on this, we are resubmitting what will be the third revised application to the LPB. I expect that to be filed this week. We're going to be addressing the Munton design that was discussed at the Landmark Preservation Board, together with the design of the what was traditionally the hotel entrance door, as well as the plan for the other stained glass doors, in the sense of we are going to be removing those to put temporary placeholders. If anybody's happened to have walked by the building, you can see they're not really amenable to securing the structure for interior build-out. All of which we've discussed with the Preservation Board, received feedback and requests for the level of detail that's required, which I believe I now have from our architect. And I expect to be back in front of them at their next meeting, which I believe is next week, although if I misspeak, I apologize. But I think it's on the 15th is their next meeting. So in light of that, and in light of the evolution of the project, I guess, how you want to treat this particular appeal, I leave to your sound discretion to either approve or deny, you know, at your leisure, because it looks like we are going in that direction of, you know, kind of a collaborative approach to resolving the issues with the building. So, and I'm hopeful about that.
We appreciate the update. We knew that conversations were ongoing with your client, between your client and the Landmark Preservation Board. It sounds as though progress has been made, and there's an expectation that it could come to a resolution in the very near future. It seems inappropriate and advisable for this body to act on this appeal at this time, and I will defer to council and then ask if, you know, what our options are. Maybe just leave this hearing open, and at some point between now and when we next meet, action from the Preservation Board may be such that you would be in a position to withdraw the appeal between now and then.
My fervent hope is that this will be the last of the revised or supplemental applications submitted to them, but.
So we're encouraged to hear that there's progress in the discussions, and looking forward to a further update at our, or even conclusion of Preservation Board action at our next meeting. I would say we do not act on this tonight. However, since the advertisement was made for this hearing, I do believe we should ask if members of the public wish to speak for or against. But they too have, if they're in the room, they too have heard the update that you've just provided. So with that, thank you for the update. If there are no questions from the commission members at the moment, for the applicant's representative?
I have a question. I'm not sure if it's for the applicant or for the staff or both, but I did view the video for the Landmark Preservation Board meeting, and they ended up not voting, thinking that they were going to be having a meeting before this meeting, but that meeting was canceled.
I don't know if their meeting wasn't canceled. I spoke with Kate.
Okay.
Because what happened is we had that meeting. where we discussed about 8/8s as opposed to
Right.
6/6s.
Correct.
Okay, as well as getting detail on the door, color swatches, that kind of thing.
Right.
And just the timing with Memorial Day weekend in there, getting the updated drawings and detail from the architect. I'm not blaming the architect, I'm just saying the timing didn't work out. So I'd spoken to Kate, and the deadline to have had it by the meeting, which was just this past week, would have been Tuesday morning after Memorial Day, and it wasn't feasible. So I spoke to her on Friday, and she said, well, just give me a call Tuesday morning, let me know, and if not, we'll bump it to the 15th.
Okay.
I called her, and, after speaking with my architect, I got the drawings on Wednesday. And so not soon enough to give the Preservation Board a fair opportunity to review.
Okay, thank you.
So that's why we went off to the 15th.
Thank you, appreciate that. So, but will this, when this comes back, will it be for both the windows and the doors, or, because there seemed to be some question about that.
There is. So I guess here's the thing, for just kind of a further overview. Certainly for the windows, that issue is going to be addressed. Also, there is already a temporary placeholder door in the old hotel entrance. If you remember back to years in the past, what was there, I think, may have been installed by the city at one point in response to the deterioration of the original door, was like a gray steel fire door. So that was replaced with aluminum and glass. And we have proposed, I went to the Historical Association, and we were able to drag up one postcard that actually showed what that door used to look like, probably circa 1930s. Based on that, we were proposing to put in modern material, but, classic look of that door. The next step is you have the stained glass doors that contain kind of the Gothic type arch over the top. Those Tom Serio, who's the owner of the owner, is trying and looking at preserving those doors and having them refurbished to the point where they can be used. But if not, the commitment is ultimately to replace them with modern doors, but same look, same, save the glass, all that type of preservation activity that would occur. Some of those doors are in real rough shape, so trying to preserve the wood is difficult. We're not necessarily addressing in this application the proposal for those doors, because as you know, they're still hanging on the building. They have to be taken down to be analyzed. What we would be doing in this application is proposing temporary placeholder doors, because the interior of the structure is ready for build out. So you're going to have people coming in and out, materials coming in and out. There's normal, legitimate security concerns about being able to secure the entry to the building when there's that type of activity. The Preservation Board has asked that we do a documentation of the doors as they exist, plus measurements and things of that nature, so we're doing that, and that's going to be part of that application, but only as it pertains to the temporary placeholders. The ultimate resolution will require a subsequent application, as will the ultimate resolution of what's going to be going on with the stained glass, the main stained glass windows. The plan is we're certainly not talking about removing those and replacing them with clear glass or anything, but there's a couple of issues. One is securitizing those windows from an environmental envelope standpoint on the outside, and what is that going to look like? What's it going to be made out of? What type of system is that? And the second is, I think as everybody has seen, in the middle of those windows, there's, if you've been inside and then seen the outside, what you would readily realize is a section of plywood with black canvas over it with the words spray painted on it that says mitzvah. Okay, that was installed by the city when the city had control of the property. In response, they took down the windows that were there, stored them inside. Unfortunately, those windows were stolen, so we can't actually replace those in terms of the original materials. So we have a proposal for that, but that also will be a later proposal. So there will be follow-on applications, and with that, I think I've kind of very briefly tried to encapsulate all the exterior Preservation Board type issues that we'll be addressing.
Thank you.
Okay, so with that update, are there any individuals who would like to speak in favor of this appeal? Please come forward, provide your name and address, and 2 minutes of comments. We have a Cracker Jack timekeeper here today, so, as we always do. Are there any individuals then who would like to speak in opposition to the appeal? Please come forward. Okay, so we have no additional speakers this evening. As indicated earlier, we will continue to hold this hearing open in anticipation of some action from the Preservation Board that will help direct further action on this at a subsequent meeting. Okay, thank you for the update. Our next application, please.
The next public hearing is SP-99-05M1, special permit modification for a restaurant in order to modify the floor plan, elevations, and signage on property situated at 3919 South Salina Street. BAPA South Salina RE LLC is the owner. Stephen Songer is the applicant, and the property lies within a business Class A zoning district. This is a continuation of a public hearing opened on May 15th, where during the public hearing, members of the public cited issues with litter and excessive noise. The Planning Commission requested staff to reassess the proposal as though it were an application for a new special permit. The applicant did submit a revised site plan. The revised review of the proposal shows that the proposal necessitates 6 waivers from the zoning regulations with respect to driveway and curb cut width, sign, street line treatment, side yard treatment, carryout service, and arterial setback regulations.
Hello, my name is Stephen Songer on behalf of BAPA South Salina. In addition to what was discussed at the last meeting, we are proposing some changes to the fence, which was a topic brought up by the neighbors, as well as specifications on the menu board, illumination, and sound levels. I had included those sound levels in our application. And even, for example, the speaker 16 feet away has average decibel sound of 36, which is equivalent to a soft conversation that you might hear. In addition, the fence we are proposing would be a solid vinyl fence, either vinyl or PVC, just for ease of maintenance. As well as for litter, we are proposing, which was not included on the site plan at the time, a new trash receptacle just outside of the main doors. BAPA has told us that they do not typically place trash receptacles around the drive-through area, just because of backups in the drive-through lane, as we have I think there is a bypass lane, but just around that, it may cause some disruptions in that drive-through queuing. I think that may address all of the comments I have at this time.
Can you give us a sense of the comparison of the noise? You just cited what the new board would be, the decibel level. How does that compare with the previous board, or the one that it would be replacing?
Well, I don't have the exact measurements of the sound levels. Speaking with the neighbors, both during and after the meeting, it sounds like standing out in their front or backyard, you can hear it as if like someone's screaming out of the speaker. These new speakers not only have a smaller decibel level, but they also have the ability to reduce ambient noise. So standing away decreases the sound the speaker is producing by almost 50%, and that's only 15 feet away, which is to the fence line about.
So it is a lower decibel level than what it's replacing, Do you know the comparative numbers?
I do not.
Okay, someone does, right? Because to say it's less than X, you have to know what X is, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That would be helpful to have. Questions from the commission members? Additional questions?
Just maybe to clarify a couple of things about the trash receptacles and the containment of the trash, the overall trash for the restaurant. The illustration that we had showed separate fencing. There's a dumpster that's visible in this pad, and then there's a separate, smaller fenced-in area. And usually we require fencing that screens the entire plan. Was the thought that this solid fence going around the perimeter was going to be enough to screen the garbage? Is that what your company was proposing?
So the current dumpster enclosure, it's CMU block. It does have vinyl slats in the chain link fence. So from the street, it is completely enclosed. The vinyl fence is more so to decrease the light from the menu board and just to, I guess, close up those spots for like little critters to get in through the fence.
So the vinyl fence is to replace the current wooden slat fence that's
Yes.
around the perimeter of the restaurant.
Yes.
But there's nothing in the proposal to deal with the vinyl fencing that's around the pad that the dumpsters sit on.
No, there's no changes to that. Talking with their management team, they are planning on pressure washing and I guess just more so beautifying. So I can see if painting that fence would be an option. I know it's a little like dirty white right now, so that might help beautify it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Question. So in the application, you say that you're basically gonna enclose the garbage fully, but that's not being done though.
It currently is.
Okay, and how?
So-
I guess that's my question.
So currently that dumpster enclosure is solid on three sides and they do have fences that stretch across the length of that opening. So that opening is just to provide, access for the truck. I believe there's a pole in the center of the plus or minus 20-foot enclosure with two fences. Yeah, so there, as you see there, there's a picture just showing straight on what those fences look like. One of those doors was open at the time. I guess it wasn't really my place to go and close it. But just as a frame of reference to see that it's fully enclosed.
So I guess my next question would be then, one of the main concerns from neighbors and community members was the smell. Do you feel, or does the company feel, that that is being addressed with what you guys are offering as far as like a way to change it? Like how is the smell being addressed, considering how close it is to this? Give me 1 second. Considering how close it is to this person's backyard or house.
Yeah, so I apologize for that. I guess as to address the smell, they wanted to pressure wash and clean out, so I can talk with them again, but for me, I think that would include removing those dumpsters, even a little, pulling them out a little bit, and just cleaning behind them, cleaning those dumpsters, as well as trash on the neighboring properties. I feel like that can be addressed based on closing off those holes in the fence. Right now, we propose that the fence would be 6 feet. I believe the current fence, the wood is scalloped at the top. I don't know if that 6 feet is to the bottom or to the top of the post. But if that is an issue, I can see if raising that fence, I know the code is 5 feet for a fence on a neighboring residential property, but if our 6 feet is not enough, I guess that's up to the board to decide.
just for clarification, they would be allowed a 6-foot fence along the side yard, as long as it's not, the fence that's proposed is within the parameters of the zoning ordinance.
Okay, fence for like this part or like the whole thing?
The the proposed white vinyl fence down the easterly lot
Okay, yes.
line meets the requirements of the side yard treatment requirements.
Okay,
Okay,
The chain link fence with the vinyl strips meets the requirements of screening garbage.
the garbage, okay.
When the fence is closed.
If sir.
if all the gates work and the fence is closed.
Right.
Okay.
One last question regarding the sound. He asked earlier, Steve asked earlier, if you had any idea what's currently there, and I think that's pretty important because to know where you're going, you gotta know where you've been. So if we don't know what the sound is now, we don't know if it's actually a difference compared to what's being proposed now. So how could we, I guess I'm asking for more information on what's currently there to better understand where we're going, how we're going forward and addressing the noise issue. Do you follow? Okay.
So I guess in response to that, if the code enforcement office has received any complaints, if they have the facilities to go out and record those sound levels. If not, we can definitely talk with our with the Duncan facility team and see if they have any ways to measure that.
I will defer to law, but providing any additional information at the request of the planning commission is the responsibility of the applicant.
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
Or in the alternative, do you want us to ask code enforcement to go listen to the present speaker? Think about that.
Yeah, I don't think-
If we say tomorrow, there's a question from the neighbors about the volume of the speaker, and we ask code enforcement to go by and listen to the existing speaker before you're able to start repairs or construction, it might put you in ownership in a difficult position.
Okay.
Right.
Without giving legal advice, that's a disclaimer. Excuse me.
And then one last question. Within the application, you guys propose some small trash cans around like the per se perimeter, but we don't see that anywhere within like any of the plans. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, so we, I believe on our site plan, we did not propose any. At the time, we were still talking with Duncan franchisee to see what their normal business operations are. They felt that along the drive-through area would back up, drive-through queuing too much. They were just proposing the one trash or a trash receptacle outside of the main doors. There is one just inside of the main doors as of, last month when I was there. I can talk with them and see if they have any hesitancy to putting trash receptacles, I guess, in the side or close to the sidewalk within our property. Is there any, I don't believe there was any limitations or regulations on how many would need to be placed?
No, there aren't. They would have to be placed on the property and not in the city right of way or on an adjacent property.
Okay. And are those trash receptacles considered, like accessory structures or anything that needs setback? Okay.
I apologize. I have one last question.
Okay. You're fine.
In regards to the power washing, what is that aiming to mitigate? Like, why is that the option that you guys propose? Like, what are you addressing, in you guys' opinion, what are you addressing by power washing the dumpster area?
So they wanted to get rid of any trash that was loose about, or any trash that may be, I guess, stuck to, or same as cleaning the side of your house, just getting rid of any dirt and gunk that was on those walls, both inside and out.
Okay. All right, you answered the question, thank you.
Additional questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure if it's a question as much as just a sort of thought. I mean, there seems to be some history with this property in which the franchise owner and/or the manager has really not been a good neighbor in responding to the complaints of the residents in the neighborhood who are having issues with the sound and the smell and not shoveling sidewalks and other kinds of things that were given in testimony at the hearing. And you know, I'm concerned because I think this problem, given that we're going into a new zoning process in which there's going to be a lot more mixed-use properties around the city, I anticipate this kind of signage, noise, light, sound problem is coming up a lot more. And I'm just not sure. Am I correct in understanding that this is a new franchise owner that's taken over the property?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. So is there any way that it can be made clear to the new owner what the complaints have been and some stipulations with respect to that? I mean, I'm not really comfortable with the idea of approving a project that may visit monitoring problems on code officers and the police and other people in the city who need to monitor the ongoing use of this property. So if this could be addressed, I think it would be helpful.
Yeah, I will definitely raise these concerns with their facilities team. This franchisee, they recently bought a number of Dunkins, in the Syracuse area, Rochester, just around upstate New York. They believe, they really want to get in and make the neighborhoods happy. So I will definitely get some clarification from them and let them know of all of the past code discrepancies and issues that were raised.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sounds good. Thank you. If there are no further questions from the
No,
commission
thank you.
members, and if your presentation is concluded, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Then we'll invite comment either way on the project. So if there's anyone who would like to speak in favor of this application, please come forward to do so. Provide your name and address, and up to 2 minutes of comments. Anyone in favor? I don't see anyone for that. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to this application? Please come forward to provide name and address and 2 minutes of comments. Please, go right ahead. Just speak into the microphone, offering your name and address, and then your comments on the project.
All right, so our house is next door to the Dunkin' Donuts on Fillmore Ave.
Your name and address, please.
At Annie Regis, 117 Fillmore Ave. I didn't realize we were being filmed last week, so this is public information.
Yeah.
I
famous
wish I had
now.
known that, honestly. I just found out this afternoon that it's visible. Anyway, I'm very concerned. I appreciate what you have said, because I thought the problem is going to be the same. I've called, we've called the city for the fence over the years. We've tried to talk to Dunkin' Donut directly, because I think that's the way it should be taken care of. I'm very concerned about the fence. Did you say it's a vinyl fence around our yard? That's pretty horrible. I think that lowers the, the quality of our yard, so that's really bad. If there is a fence, it should touch the ground, because stuff goes under, and the 6 feet at least should be that. As far as the trash cans are concerned, I don't know why you can put the trash can along the fence, because obviously people walk by and throw stuff over our fence. It's very visible. There are bottles in the middle of the yard. They did not roll under they're not tins or cans, they're bottles, so they've been thrown over. So at least if there are trash cans along the drive-through where people walk through, that should be done. The noise, I thought the same thing as some of you gentlemen have said, is that how do we know what the noise is going to be like? And honestly, for years, they've been there. We didn't hear or very little. So they've done something different than they did when they first opened the store. So it's just when it became, real loud that we had to say something. The other thing that concerns us as neighbors is that the parking lot is like a party thing. The other night at 2-3 a.m., there are cars running and then blasting radio and everything. I think there should be a way to not allow access to Dunkin' Donuts when they're closed. It's like a constant thing. It's really a constant thing. Somebody mentioned last time that across the street there's going to be a new business that they'll probably use their parking lot as an overflow. That's really a concern because radios and people talk and drinking, and this is going on now. This never happened before. This is like a recent thing in the past few years. For the fence, I know I've called the city, and they have other things to do. I think it should be the responsibility of the neighbor and the party concerned to take care of it. The wooden fence does not require that much upgrade, but if it does require, who do we call? We never know. It changes manager all the time, and you spend days trying to find out who do you call. I've called the headquarters and all of that. So these should be things that as neighbors we should be provided with. And on a practical note, last time when they opened the thing, they put the fence up and totally disregarded anything we had in our yard. They walked all over the flower beds and everything. I know that sounds like a real, not much concern, but I would like to be there when that happens, and I would like it to be done in one day if they change the fence. All I'm asking is that you fix the fence and then you keep it nicely. But it can be open to the street for days because of the trash that we get. I imagine people would just come in the yard and everything. So that's, there's still a lot of concern.
Conclude your remarks, please.
I'm sorry?
I would ask that you please conclude your remarks.
Okay, conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Please provide your name and address and a 2-minute limit on your comments, please.
2 minutes.
Please.
Okay. My name's Gary Stuffin. I live at 127 Fillmore. I would give Dunkin' Donuts a very bad neighbor award. They're very difficult to work with. I'm concerned about the noise. Guess who wakes me up every morning? Not my wife, the Dunkin' Donut lady. I'm tired of it. I hear it, I'm in bed. And I'm not talking 10 o'clock in the morning either. Way too early. I don't want to hear her. The trash concerns me. I can verify everything that Mrs. DeRegis just said as far as the trash. From time to time, I will take care of the DeRegis home. I'll cut grass and so forth. And I had to pick up all kinds of junk. I won't even name what it is, but it's from Dunkin' Donuts. I live 2 doors above Mrs. DeRegis. And guess what I find in my yard frequently? Junk from Dunkin' Donuts. And how do I know it's from Dunkin' Donuts? It says Dunkin' Donuts on it. I'm tired picking it up.
I would ask that you direct your comments to the planning commission.
Okay, but he can hear.
Yeah.
You can certainly hear,
Okay.
yes.
Disgust is all that I have for the way they treat me. It has to stop. And I agree with Mrs. DeRegis. I want a phone number I can call, and I want to know that I can get in touch with them that day. And I want something to be done about it. There have been times years ago when I would shovel their walk from DeRegis's to Salina. so my wife didn't have to walk out on the road when I was home.
Please conclude your remarks.
I'm sorry.
Please conclude your remarks.
Okay, thank you very much. Concluded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other individuals who wish to speak in opposition? Please come forward.
I have pictures of, I have two sets of pictures that maybe been passing around.
Sure. Send those down that way when you're ready. And we'll get them back, yeah.
What are you looking for?
Okay, I'll try to summarize. We spoke to the applicant after the meeting.
You please introduce yourself.
Kathy Stribley, Kathy Stribley, 316 Monticello Drive North. We spoke to the applicant after the last meeting and talked about the whole issue with this site and how proximate this board is and the property to the 117 property, and the way the board is laid out facing her house. The service area faces her backyard, and the drive-through is pushed over toward the back. That's the way it was approved, back in whenever it was approved. However, we asked the applicant to consider reorienting this board, and not the drive-through, but the board at least, away from the house, and maybe either to the south. It maybe take some work, but toward the south of the property. That might help a little bit. I don't know, but I'm not sure if that was considered or not. But I want to mention, because I know you have a time limit, which is extreme here. There's an overhead gantry proposed in this application, and there's no overhead gantry there now. I don't know why you need an overhead gantry to increase the visual pollution. So I'm not sure why that's in there. I asked the applicant's representative, and he said it's for the people that are sitting in their car and maybe they're not going to get rained on, but I'm not sure that's a good enough reason to add more of a mess to the situation than already is there. I agree with Mrs. DeRegis. It's a very natural fence right now. It looks nice. Replacing it with white vinyl would be horrible. All they need to do is repair it and make sure the snowplows don't knock it down.
Could you please conclude your remarks?
Thank you for providing them in writing, actually. You always do that, and we appreciate the written comments. Are there other individuals, excuse me, who wish to speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come to the podium. I see.
Forgot to mention the signs. Question about the signs?
It's really one option per person.
Can somebody address the lighting, if it's gonna be 24-hour lighting?
So I will now invite the applicant to return to address some of the comments made in opposition. Number of issues raised from the last several speakers. Can you speak to some of those issues?
Yeah, so in regards to the fence, we were proposing the solid, either PVC or vinyl fence. That is just for ease of cleaning. They can just be sprayed down with a hose or easily wiped off. If there's any, I guess, scuff marks or anything gets on that fence. We can definitely look into like a solid wood stockade fence, which I believe the Colonial Laundromat next door has abutting its residential property. They referring to their Duckin franchisee, they wanted to just remove that entire wood fence to really just not allow anything to pass through, both light, any sound, or really any animals traveling through that may be holding onto garbage. Back again to garbage, we can propose adding more trash receptacles around the walkways of the site, from the sidewalks and the right-of-way. And I guess in regards to the canopy over the ordering menu, that is just something that Dunkin' normally does, as well as a number of other fast food franchisees that we work with, just to protect from rain, really. If you wanted to really just look out and see what was on the menu. We also have a note for the clearance bar being proposed right next to that menu board, to have the contractor coordinate with the owner if that would disrupt any pathway to the dumpster enclosure for any trash removal services. We can put that same note onto the menu ordering canopy as well. Trying to think what else. I believe I may have addressed all those comments.
Yeah, just the last one is the illumination of the light for the menu display.
Right. So I don't know offhand if they normally turn those off at night. I would assume so, just to save that electricity of being on 24/7. Considering the stores, I think, close at 7 o'clock and maybe open at 6 a.m. So just being on for 12 hours facing a fence really doesn't benefit anyone. Also, for the sound on those boards, the volume can be turned up or down. So I will really let the franchisee know the issues that have been brought up from the residents nearby, and just see if they have a contact either at the store or maybe at like the larger management level, if there's someone they can contact about any of these issues. Just because it seemed that the last franchisee did not keep proper upkeep of their restaurant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think in reading the minds of my colleagues, which is a dangerous thing to try to do, this commission is probably not in any position to act upon this proposal tonight. We would ask that you take these issues back to your client and discuss them very thoroughly. I think the comments that we heard this evening are really the same in nature as what we heard at the May meeting of the commission, with serious concerns about noise, litter, and so forth, and screening of the dumpster. And we'd ask that you try to quantify what the improvement is that you suggested in the noise level. So, and rather than a qualitative description of it being a soft conversation, something like that, if you could find some specs on the equipment that you now have to tell us what that decibel level is versus the new system that you're going to put in, that becomes much more helpful information for the commission to evaluate in making a decision on this. But we don't want you to focus on the noise to the exclusion of the other issues that the neighbors have raised as well. And I hope you can have a good discussion with your client about some new or creative ways to address some of the other concerns that have been raised, even though they might require something a little different than what Dunkin' is used to doing in most of its venues. But in this situation, given history of the site, again, a different franchise owner, but same neighbors, we want to try to encourage the applicant to address those concerns in a real workable, practical way. So if, with concurrence of my colleagues, we'll continue to hold this hearing open, and we look forward to additional information from you and your client at our, we have 2 meetings in June, at our next meeting in June, toward the end of the month.
Thank you.
For clarification purposes, the Planning Commission has asked for additional information comparing the decibels of the current speaker box to the proposed speaker box. The commission may also, if you wish, request a lighting plan for the property for any and all proposed illumination, if that's a concern of yours. And the applicant has certainly offered to revise the site plan to illustrate trash receptacles. But if there are other specific information or products that the Planning Commission would like to see to answer your questions or to meet your information requests, you may certainly specify those.
I think those 3 items make a lot of sense. I focused on noise, but as part of our discussion and as part of the comments during the public comments portion of the hearing, we also heard about lighting and trash and debris and so forth. So I think those 3 items would be the 3 topics where we need additional information presented to the commission.
Just to add, as well as the fencing, there was a proposal on your end saying you guys would entertain potentially looking into another material for the fencing, considering what you propose isn't per se applicable for the per se community.
You know, if I could just offer as a friendly suggestion, we do see applicants that canvass the neighborhood to garner support for the project and or assess resident concerns. And, you know, it may go a long way in helping your application if you were able to do that. I understand time is money for developers, but given the complaints of residents, that might be a practice that would bear some fruit.
Always a good way to proceed.
And thank you for what you're doing. Obviously, all of this isn't your doing, but you have to deal with it. But I just want to say thank you for your patience and handling this in the manner that you have been.
Thank you. I also wanted to include that in the package submittal via email last week. We do have illumination for that drive-through menu board. I will see if Duncan has anything else. But our intent was for a solid fence to block any lighting, either wood or another material. Just wanted to include that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you. So this hearing remains open.
I'll talk to the applicant. Okay. I would just ask the Planning Commission, there appears to be room on the site to relocate things such as the dumpster or the drive-through menu board, but not necessarily without taking away some parking. But
Right,
if you relocate the dumpster, that certainly opens up parking in the back corner. I would ask the Planning Commission to provide, if you have any, if you're open to a parking waiver, to granting a parking waiver, if it were necessary as a part of redesigning the drive-through. And I don't want to get into redesigning. I'm happy to talk to the applicant. But if they were to relocate the dumpster and the drive-through menu board to the south side of the restaurant, it would impact some of the parking. Would the Planning Commission be amenable to any parking waiver resulting from any sort of site redesign?
I can only speak for myself. I would be open to such a waiver request if the plan in its totality addressed more effectively some of the neighborhood concerns. So I also don't know what my other colleagues say tonight, and may or may not be prepared to weigh in on that. And we also have a member who isn't able to attend this evening.
Right.
Don't know what that member's posture might be on this either, but I'd be open to that if it fits in with a very comprehensive revision that is really focused on some of these neighborhood concerns.
It's not a vote, but I would second his statement regarding a potential, entertaining a potential parking waiver to better address, especially the trash and obviously the noise. So if there was something proposed to remove or change the locations of these two things, I would be for that.
Yeah, it seems to me like that would go a long way in addressing some of the issues, but without knowing the numbers of what would be involved, it's hard to actually say.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
So I think you have some good feedback to work with, and we'll look forward to an update when you return. Okay, and thanks to everyone who spoke this evening. At this point, we'll move to our next public hearing, please.
The next public hearing is SR-12-16M1, a site plan review for an antenna to modify an existing rooftop antenna array on property situated at 918 Euclid Avenue, also known as 920 Euclid Avenue. The Irwin First Methodist Church is the property owner, and T-Mobile Northeast LLC is the applicant. And the property lies within a split zone, is split zone between residential Class A and residential Class AA.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Davis, Barclay Damon, relatively simple application. There's 3 existing T-Mobile antennas inside the steeple structure at the church. The plan is to replace those with 3 new ones. They're invisible now to the public. They'll remain invisible to the public afterwards, and connect them with new wiring back to their control center. You'll see as well that the existing Nextel antennas, which are at the site, and they're actually on the exterior of the church, those will be removed because, as you know, Sprint and Nextel merged, and then Sprint and T-Mobile merged, so they no longer need the Nextel antennas there. So those will come down off the church, so anything that actually is visible from an antenna perspective relative to T-Mobile will actually be removed. That's the gist of the application, relatively simple.
Questions for the applicant?
Just out of curiosity, are they changing in size or anything?
The antennas are slightly different in size, but they still fit within the existing steeple structure. There's also what they call remote radio heads, which are attached to the antennas, which allow them to do various control mechanisms of the antennas without actually having to get up to do that. Okay. But they'll all stay inside the existing stealth structure, so visually, there's no difference.
We are always grateful for anyone that can take the technology and get it to blend in with the structure that's leasing them space. So commend everybody on your end, all the way back to the T-Mobile people, for making it look like it's part of the structure.
Right. Yeah.
For clarification, the antennas are going inside of the cross.
The cross, exactly.
As illustrated in the plan.
Correct. Yep.
And yes, the stealth cross, as it's referred to in your application, is a great idea. And I was going to make my usual reference to how you've taken 3 and made it 1, but I think everybody who goes to church gets that reference. It's a great idea to move all those antennas and get them to work, and I'm sure with the higher technology, it's all going to be serving the public well. So thank you for all that.
Thank you.
I live 2 blocks from there. I had no idea there was an antenna in the cross.
And then we did our job. That's good. All right.
Further questions for the applicant, or?
I'm all set.
All set, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. SR-12-16M1, in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Provide your name, address, and 2 minutes of comment. I don't see any speakers for this application, so we'll declare this hearing closed and entertain a motion for action if there is such a motion.
Do we require a secret determination?
Oh, yeah.
Before we,
I was waiting.
Certainly do.
we are here to please, and we will start with our secret determination.
Thank you.
I forgot to do the global at the beginning all had a chance to review the short EAF part 1 that's included in your packet?
Yes.
Yes.
And as well, the 11 questions on the short EAF part 2?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, do you believe do you believe this project will have any I don't know what's going on. Do you believe this project will have any moderate to large impacts?
No.
No.
Okay, because you don't believe that there will be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete part 3 of the EAF accordingly.
Okay, thank you. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve with a negative declaration.
Well, this is just a negative declaration.
Oh,
Seeker.
okay. So, yeah.
So you're moving
Moving, and then you're,
this seeker.
Second.
Carrie moved.
Oh, second, sorry.
Okay, you two fight it out.
New
Who's
process. This
first?
is a new process.
Discussion on the motion before us for seeker. If there's no discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We have a negative seeker declaration approved. Is there a motion for action on the site plan review for the proposed antenna, SR-12-16M1?
Move approval.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So the site plan review for this project is approved. Thank you very much. And we move to our next public hearing.
The next public hearing is R 23-07, a re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 471 to 481 and 493 Oswego Boulevard into one new lot. One Webster Landing LLC is the owner and the applicant, and the properties lie within a commercial Class A zoning district.
Good evening. Vincent Ryan with Keplinger Freeman Associates, 6320 Fly Road, on behalf of the applicant, One Webster's Landing. We're seeking a re-subdivision for the existing structure. There's a change of use which prompted a administrative site review, which we have completed. This is the final step. So the existing structure and the parking lot will be re-subdivided into one existing lot to meet the demands of the zoning code. As a result of, if we had kept them separate, there would be extra variances placed in the parking lot, so this provides a cleaner lot for the city and the applicant. Questions?
Questions?
All set, thank you.
I'm all set.
Thank you.
Two questions.
Yes.
There's a note in the comment section here about zoning mapping, and apparently there's some discrepancies that exist, the engineers have found in the ROW rankings. And so can I assume that will be clarified and taken care of, regardless of whether we approve this or not?
It has been taken care of. Our surveyor spoke with your engineering mapping and took care of that. So that should be reflected in revised comments.
Yeah, and I also have a comment about, I guess there are some taxes that were due that were not paid in April. Again, is that something we can assume that will be taken care of?
That's within your
Okay.
review.
Thank you.
Further
I will
questions for
point
the
out
applicant?
for clarification, the zoning office now refers re-subdivisions to the finance department to determine whether or not there are back taxes, only because the finance department will not sign off on an approved subdivision map until any back taxes are paid.
Okay.
And there is by law, 62-day requirement to file an approved subdivision map with the county clerk's office. In the past, there have been instances where approved maps for signature have been held up in finance pending payment of back taxes. We're able to extend that 62-day requirement, but it was a determination by the zoning office that it is to the applicant's benefit to know about any back taxes in an attempt to avoid any delays in signing an approved map.
A new procedure that sounds like it would be helpful to all.
Right.
Are there individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. With no additional speakers and no outstanding questions from the commission members, we'll declare this hearing closed. R-23-07. And we will turn to our attorney to walk us through our seeker steps.
I'm going to do a global as to the first two questions for all of the re-subdivision items. I assume you've all read your packet, and have you all had a chance to review the short form EAF part 1 in the packet as to next?
A lot of them.
Items?
Yes.
Yes, we have.
Okay.
Yes.
And is everyone familiar with the 11 questions on the short EAF part 2?
Yes.
Yes.
As to this one, this application, do you believe this project will have any moderate to large impacts?
No.
If none, because you don't believe there'll be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete EAF part 2 recording plan.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion for that action on seeker?
So moved.
Could you please identify the whether you're making a positive or negative
with a-
declaration?
So move with a negative declaration.
Well, that was the recommendation,
Yeah.
but it's good to be clear.
Yes.
No, I appreciate that.
Second.
And discussion on this motion for a negative seeker declaration. If there's no discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That negative seeker declaration is approved. Is there a motion on the re-subdivision application itself?
Move to approve the application.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision for R-23-07 is approved. And we move to another
The
re-subdivision.
next public hearing is R-23-17, a re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 1152 and 1154 Grant Boulevard into one new lot. Samantha and James Connors are the owners and the applicants, and the properties lie within a residential Class A zoning district.
Good evening. William Pitcher, Pitcher Architect, 124 Fiegel Avenue, Syracuse, New York. This is the property originally in the 70s had the monuments building built and received a variance on that. And it continued until about 2015 as a single property, which point the owner decided to retire. At some point, the property was subdivided from one lot into two lots. Subsequently, it was sold to owner number two, the two lots, who tried to do a grocery store, but that didn't get approved. And so it was sold now to the third owner. And they want to put the two parcels back together again, and it's mainly for zoning setback reasons and for building code reasons. It just simply makes the planning process simpler. Part of the building code issue is having a legal exit that crosses over a property line, and combining the two properties would eliminate that. We have gone through the ZBA, and they have confirmed in the most recent modification of the variance for the operation of the beauty parlor in this building. and they conditioned that on both lots. So basically, we're just asking to put the two lots back together.
Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant?
No questions, thank you.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? R-27-17 on Grant Boulevard. If so, please come forward, provide your name and address and your comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. Apparently no additional speakers. We will close this public hearing and ask our legal counsel to guide us through our steps with coming to a seeker determination.
Having stated already that you're familiar with the Part 1 and Part 2 of the EAF, do you believe this project will have any moderate to large impacts?
No.
No.
Okay, therefore, because you don't believe there'll be any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the Part 3 EAF accordingly.
Thank you. Is there such a motion for a negative seeker declaration for this application?
I move a negative seeker declaration for this application.
Second.
Thank you both. Discussion on the motion? If there is no discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So we have a negative seeker declaration approved for this re-subdivision application. Is there now a motion for action on the substantive application R-23-17, the proposed re-subdivision on Grant Boulevard?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Discussion on the motion? If there's no discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? R-23-17 is approved. We move to our next re-subdivision hearing.
The next public hearing is R-2318, a re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 930 and 940 James Street into one new lot. George and Rebecca Barnes Foundation is the owner and the applicant, and the properties lie within an office Class A zoning district.
Hello. My name is Kathy Comer. I'm the president of the George and Rebecca Barnes Foundation, and 940 James Street is a parking lot, and 930 James Street, which is next door, is where the mansion is and the property. And we now own both parcels and would like to combine them together into one property.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions for the applicant?
All set, thank you.
I have one question. Regarding the parking lot, are you guys making any changes to anything?
One of the reasons why we want to combine them is because we've got to save the rain grant from the county. And we I don't know if it's going to happen this summer because there's no contractors to do the work, but as soon as we can get somebody, and we're already on the calendar, the city to get the permit. So yeah, we're going to pave the parking lot. Not all of it, because it's way more than 200,000, but a good portion of it.
Okay.
Oh, is that, this doesn't have to do with the re-subdivision, but since you're up there and I'm curious, is that the Save the Rain program, is that a permeable pavement
That's
option?
exactly what it is.
You're exercising?
Mhm.
Great.
Nice.
Okay, good, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward, provide your name, address, and comments of up to 2 minutes in length. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. We have no additional speakers for this application, so we will close this public hearing and move to consider a seeker declaration on this application.
If you do not believe that this project will have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend that you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
I don't believe it will have
I don't believe it will.
Don't believe we'll have it.
Impact. And it sounds like my colleagues are in agreement, and if that is the case, is there a motion to offer a negative seeker declaration?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion on the seeker motion. If there's no discussion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So we have approved a negative seeker declaration for the project, and we are now in a position to consider action on this re-subdivision itself. This is R-23-18. Is there a motion for action on the re-subdivision application?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you both. Any discussion on this motion for R-23-18, the re-subdivision? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The re-subdivision project has been approved. Thank you for the presentation. And we move to another re-subdivision. Thank you.
The next public hearing is R-23-23, a re-subdivision to divide two properties situated at 325 West Jefferson Street and 102 Dickerson Street into 3 new lots. Onondaga County is the owner, and the Water Environment Protection is the applicant, and the properties lie within a central business district, General Service A.
Afternoon, Commissioners. I'm the first Chief Deputy County Attorney for Onondaga County, and I'm here for this subdivision application. I'll give a brief history. This actually came into the county in about it was part of a settlement in 2007, 2009 about the lake. It was all the county's contribution action against the city. And underneath the trolley lot is, and I have diagrams, is a CSO control facility. It's a WEP infrastructure. It's where the combined sewer overflows go until it can be treated. So the entirety of the parking lot is 3 massive underground storage containers. So the parking lot, part of this is an easement. They can't dig. It's basically forever a parking lot. It's at least as long as their infrastructure's in there. So this application is, in essence, it's a lot line adjustment, but to permit us to sell it. So it's currently 2 parcels, but the line is getting adjusted so that we can retain our 2 treatment infrastructures, above ground infrastructure, and we'll retain an easement to the underground. So you've got the northern major facility, and you've got the entranceway is the other parcel we're creating in the back end. The rest of it will be sold to permit continued parking operations, which is what it currently is, but just managed by the county. So we're trying to get out of the parking game. So this is so it's coming to you as a kind of lot line adjustment here to create 2 parcels that we can contain with our above ground infrastructure, and to permit a bidder through public auction to run to own and operate a parking lot.
Okay, thank you for the summary. Are there questions for the applicant?
All set, thank you.
A question about the parking lot sale. Do you anticipate the number of parking spaces being reduced or the same?
I believe it'll be the same or less area. So I think the idea is to fit the exact same. There won't be more. There won't be an increase.
Further?
Well, one last question. I'm just curious, when you say you think or you assume, do you have like a more concrete potential like number on like what are the chances of, like, how much are you thinking? Like,
are you talking about parking spaces?
Because
Yep.
it's gonna change. It's a pretty good question. It's gonna change. I'm curious to know how much.
There really is not room at the facility based on the existing and what we're retaining, there really isn't any room to put more parking spaces in there than currently under its current configuration. I thought there was an estimate in here, but I'm looking at it. I don't think there was. I'm sure I could, but that's about. There is really no additional room there for. It's pretty filled up in its current configuration.
Maxed out now.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Of course.
Further questions for the applicant?
I'm all set. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you all.
Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, please come forward, provide your name, address, and up to 2 minutes of comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. We'll see no additional speakers and no further questions from the commission members. We'll declare the hearing for R-23-23 closed, and we will proceed to our seeker determination motion.
If you believe that this project will not have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend that you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
I believe there will be no moderate to large impact. I'm prepared to vote on a secret determination.
Yes.
Is there a motion for a negative seeker determination on this proposed re-subdivision?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you both. Discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the proposed negative seeker declaration motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The negative seeker declaration is approved. Is there a motion on the re-subdivision itself, which is application R-23-23?
Move approval. Second.
Discussion on the motion for the re-subdivision? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? R-23-23 is approved on West Jefferson Street. We move to yet another re-subdivision application. Oh, you okay?
All right.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The next public hearing is R-23-24, a re-subdivision to combine 3 properties situated at 213 and 215 Merriman Avenue and 101 Sabine Street into one new lot. The Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation is the owner and the applicant, and the properties lie within a residential Class AA zoning district.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Caitlin Wright. I'm with the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation at 431 East Fayette Street. In your packet, you should have a proposed site plan showing that Home Headquarters plans to build a single-family house on this site. It is larger than most of the building lots that we create, but as you can see, it's an unusually shaped corner parcel, and we are doing the best we can with the existing parcels. There are 2 66-foot wide parcels across the street, so we don't think that this is entirely out of scale with the neighboring properties.
Thank you. You have prospects for a new single-family home here. This is great.
We're really very happy. New York State has created a new funding program called AHOP, the Affordable Home Ownership Program, that'll provide up to $200,000 of subsidy per unit for new construction of owner-occupied housing. And for the first time, it seems like there is some real possibility to get a large number of homes built.
Wonderful. Thank you. Are there questions for the applicant?
All set, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? If so, come forward, please. Provide your name, address, and up to 2 minutes of comments. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the application? Please come forward. I see no one rising to speak, and the Commission has no further questions for the applicant. We'll declare the hearing closed for R-23-24 and proceed to consideration of a motion for a seeker determination for the re-subdivision.
If you believe that this project will not have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend that you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
Thank you. Is there a motion then for a seeker determination on this project?
I move with a negative declaration.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion on the seeker motion for a negative declaration. If there's no discussion on this, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. And any abstentions? So we have approved a negative declaration for this project. We can now proceed to act upon the re-subdivision itself, R-23-24, the re-subdivision at Merriman Ave and Sabine Street.
Move approval of the re-subdivision?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? R-23-24 is approved. But wait, there's more. Another
The next public hearing is R-23-25.
Just stay up there.
A re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 109 and 111 May Avenue into one new lot. The Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation is the owner and the applicant, and the properties lie within a residential Class A1 zoning district.
Do I need to, for the record, I'm Caitlin Wright with the
Yes.
Greater Syracuse
Yes.
Property Development Corporation at 431 East Fayette Street. This is an example where we'd like to merge two building lots together to create a site for one single-family house. This would create an 89-foot wide parcel. Home headquarters tells us at the price point that they're selling these that they really do need to have the extra yard space to make it attractive for buyers. There is one other lot that's approximately this size on May Ave, which is only a 2-block long street.
Does this benefit from the program that you just mentioned with regard to the last application?
Yep, all the homes on tonight's agenda are under the same program. And their funding application has already been approved, so this is a sure thing.
Wonderful. Any further questions for the applicant?
So it's your estimation that the other lot that's being combined is not large enough to build on, or you're doing it primarily to provide an incentive for the sale of the house?
Primarily, yeah. We could squeeze two homes in there, but it would be hard to sell them at the price point at which they need to sell them.
Right, okay, thank you.
Any further questions for the applicant? If not, then are there individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward. Provide your name, address, and up to 2 minutes of comment. I don't see any additional speakers for this re-subdivision application. So we will close this public hearing for R-23-25 and proceed to consider a motion for a seeker declaration on this re-subdivision.
If you believe that this project will not have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend that you vote to issue a negative declaration on your seeker and complete the EAS Part 3 accordingly.
Thank you.
A question. This is on the previous seeker application as well, and I should have asked it then, but just for clarification, item 20 regarding remediation of property for hazardous waste, there has been some. There's no comment about that. So in voting on seeker, should we have information about exactly what was done and what the result was, what the outcome is? It's item 20.
Mine says no.
Mine says yes.
Which one are you?
What page are you looking at?
Item 20 of section 2.
Okay. Oops, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong application. Getting ahead of myself. I would defer to the law department, but you are certainly, it's within your purview to ask for any clarification by the applicant if you have concerns or you want additional information.
Do you have any additional information? I mean, it does seem to me something to be useful to have some additional information about. I'm not overly concerned, but it is there.
That must be referring to the demolition of any structure that used to be there. Those demolitions are done with asbestos in place, so the entire demolition is treated as one big asbestos abatement project.
I see. But we're not talking.
There hasn't been any other environmental
Talking about
remediation.
Soil remediation. so-
No.
Okay, understood.
Thank you.
A great response. Further questions? Okay, and now I lost my place.
Well, just with we close with just with that clarification. Now, are you have any concerns about any moderate change, right?
No, I would move to approve the negative seeker declaration.
Thank you.
Second.
Discussion on the seeker motion. If there's no discussion on that motion, then all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So we've approved a negative seeker declaration for this project. Is there a motion for action on the re-subdivision itself, R-23-25?
Move to approve the application for a subdivision.
Second?
Thank you both. Discussion? I would add under discussion something that I meant to do for the last one but failed to, but we've taken care of that item of business, so we won't go backwards, we'll go forward. And that is to note that there are at least a couple of instances of larger lot sizes in the general neighborhood as rationale for this move in this instance, and also the fact cited by the applicant about the need to have a larger lot to entice an owner for the price point where this project has to be sold, as also justification for the re-subdivision. In terms of departing somewhat from the pattern in the general pattern in the neighborhood. So I just offer that by way of discussion. If there's further discussion, we can have that. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor of the motion before us for the re-subdivision, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So the re-subdivision on May Avenue, R-23-25 is approved. And we continue on with our re-subdivision work this evening.
The next public hearing is R-23-26, a re-subdivision to combine 5 properties situated at 1548, 1600 to 1602, 1606, 1608 to 1610, and 1614 to 1616 South State Street into 4 new lots. The Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation is the owner and the applicant, and the properties lie within a residential Class AA zoning district.
Thank you again. Caitlin Wright with the Greater Syracuse Property Development Corporation, 431 East Fayette Street. You'll see on this attached site plan the location of 4 new homes. There are actually going to be 6, but the other 2 parcels don't need to be part of this re-subdivision application. Home Headquarters is purchasing 5 contiguous lots from us and an additional one on the northern end and on the southern end to put together a row of 7. The 2 northernmost lots are already 50 foot each, so those are just going to stay in their current configuration. Each one will contain 1 home. And then these 5 southern lots will be reconfigured into 4 to create 4 building sites for a total of 6 homes right next to each other on this block. You may recall recently Home Headquarters built about 8 new homes on Woodland, Garfield, and Baker. This site is located right where Woodland dead ends into South State Street. So from these front yards, you can see the other new homes that were just recently built.
Got you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any commission members have questions on this re-subdivision?
I'm all set.
All set, thanks.
Okay. Are there individuals who would like to speak in favor of this application? Please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please come forward, provide your name, address, and 2 minutes of comments. We have no additional speakers. We'll declare this hearing closed, R-23-26, and we'll move to consider a seeker determination on this re-subdivision.
If you believe this project will not have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EAF Part 3 accordingly.
Thank you.
No.
I don't believe there would be a large or moderate impact. In that case, is there a motion for a negative seeker determination?
Move to issue a negative seeker determination.
Second.
Discussion on the seeker motion. If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The negative seeker determination motion is approved, and we can now entertain action on the subdivision itself, R-23-26 on South State Street.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor of the motion for the subdivision, R-23-26, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That re-subdivision is approved. And we continue.
The last public hearing is R-23-29, a re-subdivision to combine two properties situated at 712 and 714 Rugby Road into one new lot. Nicole Patron and Peter Papianikos
Did pretty good.
are the owners and the applicants.
He's been practicing all afternoon.
For the last 3 weeks. And the properties lie within a residential class A1 zoning district.
Hi, I'm Nicole Patron and Peter Papianikos. We're the owners and applicants of 712, 714 Rugby Road. We'd like to combine both the
Can I
properties.
just pause you for a split second? Can you just state your address for the record, please?
712 and 714 Rugby Road.
Okay.
We want to combine both the properties. The goal is obviously to protect the integrity of the properties and put an in-ground pool in what is now 714 Rugby Road. We'd obviously be keeping the aesthetic of the historic Sedgwick neighborhood intact with the installation of that pool, and this is pending our hearing with the Landmark Preservation Board on June 15th.
Thank you. Questions for the applicants?
I'm all set.
No questions, thank you.
No questions at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will ask if there are individuals who wish to speak in favor of this application, R-23-29 on Rugby Road. Comments in favor, please come forward, provide your name and address, and 2 minutes worth of comment. If there are no speakers in favor, is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the proposed application at Rugby Road? Please come forward. No, we have no additional speakers. Unless there's any outstanding information, I think we're in a position to close the public hearing and move to a seeker determination for the re-subdivision.
If you believe that this project will not have any moderate to large impacts, I recommend you vote to issue a negative declaration under seeker and complete the EF Part 3 accordingly.
Thank you. I believe there would be a large impact.
I don't believe that.
And if that is the case, is there a motion for a negative seeker determination?
Move to grant a negative seeker determination.
Second.
Discussion on the seeker motion. If there is no discussion, all in favor of the negative seeker declaration, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The negative seeker declaration has been approved. And we are at liberty to consider action on the proposed re-subdivision itself, R-23-29 on Rugby Road. Is there a motion for action?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
So this would create a property that would have 150-foot frontage. It looks like there may be a couple of other properties in the area that have the same kind of frontage, although not necessarily in that block. I don't know if that'd be an issue or not, if anyone's concerned about that.
Those are issues that we do take into account in looking at re-subdivisions and looking at the neighborhood pattern, and often there's a rationale or other examples in the neighborhood if we're deviating from the established pattern. You did note there are a couple of examples. Looks like on maybe not quite that large, but also on Rugby, and maybe something on Sedgwick. Can't tell what the other street is. It's
Yeah, I can't see the street
off
names,
the
but
page.
there's.
Yeah, the street names are hidden on some of these maps here.
Right, right.
Wendell Terrace has a couple.
Yeah.
You know, it's basically a double lot, so our house is on one lot, and then we have our side lot, which is our yard.
Right,
which
right.
we're just looking to combine into one.
Thank you for providing that information.
No problem.
And just for the record, we have looked at other properties where there were improvements made and consultations and approvals that had to be granted by the Landmark Preservation Board. So at least we know in that part of Sedgwick that there are some lots that are larger and that do break up the lot pattern.
Okay, further discussion? If the discussion is completed, then all in favor of the motion for R-23-29, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So that re-subdivision, Rugby Road, R-2329 is approved. Thank you both. That concludes our public hearings for this evening, but not our business. We have a number of additional items yet to go. We now move into the old business portion of our meeting, and we have one item there, I believe. Jeff, can you?
I'll introduce the old items.
Thank you.
God bless you.
The second item will not be heard, the Z-221, 2214 M4. So you're probably wondering why we put this back on the agenda as old business. I'm going to walk you through it and walk the applicant through it, the interested also. You're aware that we've separated out the seeker votes on your agenda items because the law actually is enshrined to say that you have to have a separate vote. Here too, we have a similar issue in that in particular on this application, this special permit goes from you to the Common Council. And I'm sure this has happened before, but we're not gonna go through, decades of motions, but when George made his motion, and I'll note that, I reviewed the entire YouTube tape, and I knew it right after the meeting, he made a motion only as to the waiver. And, and that's not a mistake because all of your deliberations had been oriented to just the waiver and the sound and the conditions that would attach to that. But in particular, this time, since it's going to the council, we didn't really have any deliberation or discussion on the special permit itself. And then I noticed another irregularity about this particular parcel, not the project proposal, but, and that is that, as Jeff pointed out in the staff report, that the variance that was issued in 1985 was actually void ab initio, which means, I just always have waited my whole career to be able to throw that out.
I'm impressed.
Yes.
Right, yeah. That it was never valid in the first place, right from the beginning it was void. And that is because, as Jeff pointed out, the zoning code specifically prohibits the Board of Zoning Appeals to issue a variance when a special permit should be requested and voted upon instead. And in this case, for whatever reason, and we don't care why, it's ancient history, but we're gonna fix it. That board voted on a variance rather than the special permit. Even the applicant caught the error and suggested that the variance be voided, that actually what you would do is vacate that variance. So here we are today, we've got this application. Some of your discussion, when you did touch on the discussion of the special permit itself, you, and it might have been Chris Capella-Peters mentioned, oh yeah, they've been operating as a restaurant forever and ever and ever at this site. Well, given that the variance should not have issued, what we have is that your deliberations need to center on this as if it were vacant and there had never been a restaurant in that site, because there should not have been, or they should have followed the procedures correctly. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so what you need to do are several things, or if the commission chooses to, you also may ignore me completely. First, you need to vacate. We recommend that you vacate the 1985 variance. It doesn't have any, the variance is run with the land, so that's why that's particularly important, because if this applicant walked away tomorrow because they said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this anymore, that variance would still be sitting there, and someone else can come in and say, hey, we get to have a restaurant here because we got a variance in 1985. So that's the first thing that we would recommend, is that you vacate that variance. The second thing is that you need to vote separately, and I started to talk about this at the beginning, vote separately as to the waiver, and we'll be doing it on all projects moving forward, and on the substantive application separately, just like we've separated seeker out, okay? We'll work out a short form when there's multiple waivers. Thank God we don't have to do it right now. So if the commission chooses, the only complication is that you already voted on the waiver, and you may wish to take action on that to rescind it, given that the variance doesn't exist, or you can leave it intact. That's something for you to discuss as a board. And then finally, you will deliberate anew on the special permit application.
Okay.
Can I ask a council a question?
Certainly.
Okay, so at this point, we can proceed as if we concluded the hearing from the last time we reviewed this and just go through the motions on,
Public hearing is closed.
right, so we're just looking at the status of the application.
And your deliberations and the status of each piece of the application. In fact, we did seeker last time too, so frankly, it's done. I don't think you have to, it's still the same project, so I would probably at this juncture, and I'll check with our special seeker counsel, but I don't think we need to redo seeker.
Okay.
And the public hearing's closed. We're not taking more testimony now or later. It's just your votes that are on the table.
Okay.
And correcting the record going forward.
Okay.
You know, I missed the May 15th meeting because I was out of town, but I did watch the video for the meeting. And I was struck in watching the video that it did seem like the whole conversation was being treated as if this was a continuation of an existing owner of the establishment, and in fact it is new. So it makes a lot of sense to me that that needs to be addressed anew. And I was also kind of curious. I think I remember, is there a TOB sports bar somewhere else in Syracuse, or has been?
No. It's what, I don't know.
TOB is in the, in the pack.
What does TOB stand for? Taste of Brooklyn.
Taste of Brooklyn?
I'm not aware, sir.
There's no other TOB sports bar.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
There's no other TOB sports bar in Brooklyn. I mean, in Syracuse.
In Syracuse?
Right, right.
Okay.
So if the hearing's closed, and could I make a motion then affecting the use variance?
Prior to making that motion, I would ask what authority the planning commission has to vacate a variance that was approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals.
The authority is that the variance was void ab initio and never should have happened, and their authority is to correct, as this body should have done, to correct that record.
So my motion's based on the fact that this body existed at the time the Board of Zoning Appeals made its incorrect motion and incorrect vote. And actually, this body is the one that should have weighed that issue to begin with. So I'd make a motion to vacate that use variance because this body existed and would have been the correct body to have heard that application. That's my motion.
Thank you.
Second. I would
Just-
just add that also was technically done illegally per se.
They lack the authority to,
Yeah.
Without authority.
Okay, without authority.
yeah.
There's lots of Latin terms, maybe I'll have a chance to throw them around again. But that one, void ab initio literally means void from its inception, so.
Okay.
It should not have happened. Like I said, we don't care why.
Mhm.
We don't care what people were thinking. It just happened. Maybe there was an error. But we're trying to clean the record up now because this item is before you and it's going to common council. So, we want the record to be clean on all items and we may see this again,
Okay.
on other items, just so you know.
Thank you.
Further discussion on the motion to vacate the variance approved several decades ago, 85, I think it was. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? So that motion to vacate is approved. One step closer to a cleaner record for this. Next, refresh my memory, there were 3 things you recommended that we take up.
It's completely in your discretion. As I stated, some of your discussion was premised on the fact that some of your discussion is segued into a longer discussion about the waiver. And that was kind of premised on, hey, this is a restaurant and it's just gonna stay a restaurant and bar. I think it was a bar also.
Bar.
So, it is in your discretion completely whether you wish to leave that waiver that you've already voted on intact, or whether, as you're going to be considering the application completely anew, whether you want to vacate the waiver, again, because we had incorrect procedure, or just leave it as is, and that is completely in your discretion as a board.
I submit that the record supports maintaining the waiver.
Okay.
That there was enough public commentary and enough public support to maintain it.
Second.
Any discussion? That was a motion?
That was a motion.
That was a second. Any further discussion to maintain the waiver voted on previously?
Yeah, I guess one of the questions I have is if we're looking at this as a new application rather than a continuation of an existing facility that's continuing to operate, it's often the case that we get information about the owner, previous history, et cetera, in an application. We don't have any of that in this one. And I would feel a lot more confident about a vote if we had that information prior to voting.
My recollection is we had a prior proposal before this body. And then this was this special permit was actually the second application. But I'd defer to staff if you have a different recollection. That we had looked at a petition before for the Taste of Brooklyn establishment, and that this is actually a second petition under a special permit.
At this property at 4141 South Salina Street, I'm not aware of any other applications.
Was there an application elsewhere?
For Taste of Brooklyn?
I think there was.
I don't know. I
may be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, there was one a while back for a establishment on the north side.
It was a lounge.
Yeah, it was a lounge.
22-08.
Yeah. So.
And this is 2 different applications, 2 different names.
Okay.
2 different owners.
Okay.
Okay. even though it's a special permit, could we just ask him to come up and provide that information on the record, even though it's a special permit application?
I'll
Counsel?
defer to law.
Could we just ask him to provide that information on the record, even though it's a special permit?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, my name is Sean Nelson. I live at 108 Hobart Ave, Syracuse, New York, 13205. I'm the applicant's son. Stanley Snow is my father, so he is the applicant. This is not the Taste of Brooklyn Lounge, which was SP 2208 last year. This is a whole new application, new business genre, everything.
I think the confusion is, just for the board's clarification, is that on the application where Mr. Snow has signed, it says TOB, so I think that's what's causing the confusion.
Right,
And maybe
yes.
you recognize that,
Okay.
I think that's like you're an incorporated
Yes.
entity.
Yes.
So, since he signed it as TOB, is it a corporation that's going to run it?
Yes, it's already incorporated. So, you know, my father thing is to have multiple TOBs, from a cafe to a corner store to a bar to a sports bar to even a car, auto shop. Yes, yes.
Thank you for that.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
no problem.
So if that's the case, shouldn't we have information on the corporate entity TOB and any other,
I think we shouldn't, I guess we could ask him, but.
well, I'm asking you.
I'm in uncharted territory right now, letting
Right.
the applicant come up, but I want him to understand the weird process. We're unpacking votes because we want to do it properly. So, you're welcome to request more information, of staff or of the applicant. That's.
Well, given that the application is signed by TOB,
So he signed in the wrong location?
No, I think.
I thought the TOB was in part of where the name goes of the proposed business. Yeah. It's TOB Sports Bar. And he signed his name where I believe the applicant, I could probably pull it up on my phone.
The application, this is for 4141 South Salina Street. Stanley Snow is the applicant. Identified William Palladino, president of 2468 Group Incorporated, as the property owner. Then they identified Stanley Snow as the applicant, with TOB Sports Bar LLC as the company.
And for clarification, this is a strip mall. Does your father own the strip mall?
No, he doesn't own strip
So
mall.
you're gonna be
A tenant.
Yeah, tenant.
a
Tenant,
Yes.
right.
So ownership is not irrelevant, but where it says the owner's name on there, that's just them disclosing as required who owns the building?
2468 Group is a company out in Buffalo that owns the plaza.
Okay. All right. So they don't really have anything to do with
No.
bar except that, or your lounge, whatever it is.
Sports bar.
Sports bar.
Except,
Yes.
that they own the,
Yes, property.
okay, thank you very much.
And thank you for coming up.
No problem.
Does that satisfy that question? Pardon me?
He said we have a motion in front of us.
there's a motion.
We do, but we diverted to a question. I think that maybe addresses the request for information. Meanwhile, we have a motion before us seconded to reaffirm the waiver that this body voted on last month. So if there is no further discussion on that motion, let's proceed to a vote on that. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, one nay noted. Any abstentions? So that motion carries and reaffirms the waiver already provided at the last meeting. We are now at liberty to consider anew the application itself for the special permit. And we've had the hearing at the May meeting, at least at the May meeting. I don't know if that spanned two different commission meetings or not, but certainly it was addressed in the May 15th meeting. I invite discussion now on that special permit or a motion that we can then have a second and discussion on a specific motion.
Move approval of the special permit.
Second.
Discussion on this motion for the special permit for the restaurant establishment at 4141 South Salina Street.
I mean, personally, I just have some questions about sort of the corporate structures that are involved in this. And personally, I would just like to see some clarification of that management structure, ownership structure, the larger LLC that's involved in this. It's just confusing to me, and I would like to see that.
Wait. You gotta wait a second.
Yeah. So I'm just saying it's confusing to me. And I think there would be value in having that clarified, especially given some of the other concerns about this property, before I at least feel comfortable voting to approve.
Yeah, just to ask for a clarification, then, are you suggesting this needs to be a full hearing?
I guess I have a question about that.
Okay, that's fair.
Just for the record, I will point out that Mr. Lentz was not present for the May 15th public hearing and vote.
Mr. Lentz has
But he reviewed the.
I understand
Jeff,
that.
Mr. Lentz has reviewed the YouTube.
I'm just pointing out for the record.
For purposes of the record and for this discussion, allows him to
Participate.
Yes.
So I guess I'm just raising it as a question. I'm not sure how other folks feel about that. It's a matter for some deliberation.
And what legal, if we could defer to, or I could defer to legal counsel for, to weigh in on the commission's authority to, or purview to review legal structure, management company and so forth?
I think that you can request more information, from the applicant. Maybe the way he's wording it isn't, I mean, definitely the legal structure of Taste of Brooklyn isn't necessarily under your purview, but if that's the umbrella organization and you have some questions about that, you certainly can request more information from staff to look into this more deeply. Again, all I can say is that to the extent that you discussed this matter at all, this special permit at all at the last hearing, you were relying on the fact that you thought there was a valid variance in place.
Okay.
And really the way you have to look at this before you've made a motion, so I don't know if you want to keep the motion, is as if starting from scratch, as if this is a vacant space, and whatever information you want to learn, there could be more from the applicant, I don't know, about now. You really have to put up a wall and pretend that there was never anything there. You did hear the public talking. It might be worth starting over if the applicant wants to withdraw and have a new public hearing. I don't know if I frankly don't know if you can have a second public hearing, but given that the variance was vacated, you're in a slightly different posture now.
Gotcha.
So, but you do have to consider this as if there was never a restaurant or lounge or bar or anything in that space. So if you feel you have enough information in the packet, then you can go forward. If you feel like you need to supplement the packet with additional information, given that the context is slightly changed now, then it's up to you whether you want to request staff to provide more information. If you want to ask the applicant to provide more information.
Okay.
It's complicated legally because I think it's a kind of a unicorn that the BZA voted the variance.
Sure.
Because of what happened in '85.
Right.
So my understanding is that they wanted to get the application through and that BZA was gonna vote first. And so they were like, okay, let's just do a variance. And the special permit was weeks later. They could have gotten before planning commission. They did what they did.
I have a question, and this is like a learning opportunity for myself. With Barry not being at the last meeting, I'm just curious into it being okay for him to weigh in, considering he watched the video. I'm just concerned, like, if I wasn't here, if I recused myself, I would totally recuse myself from any vote. So I'm just curious as to that aspect of it. Like, how would that work?
He hasn't recused himself, and just for example.
Or not a recuse, excuse me, but like him not being present.
My understanding, and I hope I'm not wrong, but you guys might know, my understanding is that if a member wasn't present at a meeting, but they've completely reviewed the tape, in this case we have a video so it shows body language and everything, they can vote on the minutes as presented.
Okay.
So in fact, Barry voted on the minutes today for your for the May 15th meeting.
Well, actually, I abstained from the meeting.
Yeah, he did.
For the May
That's
15th meeting.
Okay.
That's why I'm
Well,
saying what I'm saying.
My understanding is
could
that
have.
you can vote if you've reviewed the YouTube. And he had stated on the record, by the way, I reviewed the YouTube of
Okay.
the meeting. So, I wouldn't suggest that he needs to recuse.
No, I'm not saying he
on
does.
discussion of this.
I'm just curious how that would work.
But I do understand why he's wanting more information, because now we're kind of in more of a different posture because the variance doesn't exist anymore. And I think, by the way, your response to Jeff's question about the authority is exactly spot on, and that is that what authority do you have? Well, that should have been before this board, and I'm telling you, it's void to start with. So, can you indicate the action of another board? Technically, no, but since it was void anyway, you've made a record
Right.
of how it should have been and what we're doing prospectively.
And as an aside, any commission member who is unable to attend in person the meeting is able to bring themselves up to date by reviewing the tape in its entirety and participating in the discussion subsequently if it's a continuation hearing or other business. So that's always an option available to the commission members to do that. But setting that aside for the moment, we have a motion before us. What I would suggest as a way of maybe moving forward on this is to pause for a moment on the motion and see if there are some items of information that the commission would like to have, either from the applicant or from staff. And if we have a list, short, long, or medium, of informational items that would be helpful to have to support the commission in its deliberation of this new application, essentially, then I think I suggest maybe we withdraw the motion, acquire the information, evaluate the information, return to our deliberation for the special permit for the restaurant application. And if we're asking for additional information, my sense is we're not going to get that this evening immediately. It takes time to compile it, so it's likely to be at the next meeting or as soon thereafter as whatever information we request is available.
I would suggest this also, that, and the who live nearby won't like this, but given that this is a new application and their commentary was oriented toward there having been something there, and I'm telling you now, you look at it, if
I was
nothing's there.
wondering.
Their comments are also relevant only to if there had been something there. So I'm not sure that you shouldn't.
I'm going to respectfully disagree, and I will cite 3920 South Salina Street for the special permit for a restaurant that had numerous public hearings. They were
Ballantine and
operating
Salina.
illegally. Although there was no special permit, they were operating, albeit illegally. Members of the public did cite existing noise and traffic complaints as part of the public hearing for a new special permit.
Yes, thank you, Jeff. I wasn't finished. So what I was going to say was that prospectively, the same people might want to testify in a reopened public hearing or a new public hearing of what they believe might happen. I don't, like if there were a restaurant there or something there. So I don't know all the answers. I apologize to the applicant because I don't know all the answers procedurally, whether you could have another hearing, whether you can advertise it again, only if the applicant withdrew, which we wouldn't expect them to do. So if you have more information you want, but we are in a weird, kind of unicorn position
It's
because
complicated quickly.
Is the public testimony relevant because it was specific to there having been a restaurant, and I'm telling you to consider it anew, which is appropriate given that the variance should never have been granted. Doesn't invalidate their experience, and that's what I'm wondering if we need to get before the board.
Gotcha. I would just add, it's similar to Dunkin' Donuts. We have a new franchise owner who is still technically being held accountable for past franchise owner actions. So I feel like this is applicable, and the community, they live there, they've been there, so their insight, though it's a new per se restaurant, what happened previously, you can't dismiss that. I don't think that's fair.
And the record is there. You affirmed that you're going to keep the waiver intact, and so to the extent that all the testimony was relevant to noise, then it's still 100% relevant, and that waiver was passed with a number of conditions that relate to the possible noise to come out of a new establishment. So I'm just saying that it's just an odd posture to be in, to have to take the special permit piece of this and look at it fresh as if it's a vacant space.
Okay.
But the waiver discussion is relevant, and you took action on it, so all of that testimony is intact. There was a public hearing, it's on the record, it is what it is. But more to the point, there's a motion pending, I believe, still. If you want more information, I don't know what that would be. I don't know if that was an artful wording saying the tax structure, but did you say there used to be a Taste of Brooklyn?
Well, that was a mistake.
Right, in other words, so our conversation really involved the same business, but they were going to open another location, and they were going to have a different function. My recollection was just the business name had support, but they withdrew from that other location.
Okay.
And I was thinking, again, if it's the same business, this is Starbucks, McDonald's, Burger King, Dunkin' Donuts, but now they're opening up in a different vacant location in a strip mall. And so just putting it out there for the discussion, my point of view was, whatever they're doing to franchise their business, or if they're opening their business in a second location, if it's a company store, the question is, if we treat it as a vacant spot that they're moving their business into, do we need any more information? And some of you think you may need something else.
I think it's relevant. Let's just say that, so I think there's a difference between franchisees and, let's say Delmonico's opened a second Delmonico's. It's one of my favorite places, so it's on my head, right?
Sure.
And let's just say the existing one and for the public, this is let's not use Delmonico's name, let's just say there's a restaurant.
Sure.
And they're very bad actors, because Delmonico's is so I apologize for trying to use that as an example. And they're very bad actors. They don't clean up their garbage, they have music, they park cars on the right of way, and then they come in for a special permit to open a second location. It is relevant to look at the history of that entity, their code enforcement history, their behavior under their previous special permit before you deliberate on a new one. So unlike Dunkin' Donuts, which is owned by an individual franchisee, and so still kind of holding them accountable for the bad acts at that location. This is an individual, not a corporation, not a franchisee, who wants to establish multiple locations, but they don't.
Well, it's not multiple locations, it's just one.
Oh, I thought ultimately you
Yeah, it's just one.
That's all I wanted to explain. We have, it's not franchised yet, but that is the goal. I said, Tasty Road Cafe, there's no more lounge. It's just what my father has going on, the sports bar. It
Right.
doesn't own the cafe or anything yet, but that is the long-term goal.
But
He's on the corporation, he's the only member. There's no other members on
Yeah.
there.
And then to
But
add,
there was a lounge?
no, there wasn't. It was proposed. So
Okay,
that
I was
even
conflating.
that even
Okay, I got it.
that even adds to say for what Barry's asking for, it was never, this lounge was never even established. So they have no history. I think it's kind of a fact. They have no history for us to question. So we're kind of holding them.
In that context.
We're asking for information that technically they don't have, because this is still their first establishment, correct?
Would be, if this were to be approved, then it would be the next time around that we would then say,
Then we-
oh, what's your
exactly.
history? And
Yeah.
look to what
Right.
happens
Right.
at this, if it gets launched.
Yeah, so.
Well,
So I understand that TOB Sports Bar was a proposal that was withdrawn.
Wait 1 second. I'll just add, we're on the right road, we're just kind of going a different way. So TOB is a entity that proposed to have a lounge, I would just say, location somewhere in the north side.
Right.
That did not fully come into fruition. It did not happen. They never acquired the location, they never started a business or anything of that nature, excuse me. So it's a brand new establishment. They just have prior history with us because they've come in front of us before. And then as the young man explained, they do plan at some point, which at this point doesn't even matter, to franchise at some point. So technically they're a new business. This is their first time coming to us with this bar, which the other one was a lounge. So there's no history to question.
So TOB Sports Bar, Inc. is not involved in any other business enterprises?
No.
That's just the corporate name that was given for this particular project?
Yes.
Well, I guess, question is, are there any implications of approving this with an application that it's got a lot of misinformation in it, or incorrect information? I mean, should we at least have a clean application?
I would submit you had a clean application that was presented in a public hearing on May 15th.
Okay.
And then it appears our issue is that there was something that was created that we had to clean up. It's not the applicant's legal issue. The issue was, we operated with that variance, and we find out it shouldn't have existed.
The variance is irrelevant. The applicant acknowledges on the application that the variance should be vacated.
Right.
Or voided, as they said.
Right.
So you had a clean application, you still have the same application. And to the extent, to answer your question correctly, there's no need for a new application because you can conform the application to the facts, but there are no different facts to conform it to because they acknowledge the variance and you've acted on that.
Right.
So blank space, vacant space in the business, and it's a new application.
which brings us to the vote that we just made.
No, there's a motion.
Oh, motion,
Right.
excuse me.
Nope, we didn't vote yet.
Yeah, pardon me. Pardon me.
We're all
Still out there.
Yeah.
And our poor applicants over there, going, what the hell is going on, but we're getting there.
So with the motion made and seconded, I return to the invitation for us to enter into discussion about the implications of this proposed special permit for a restaurant, knowing that nothing existed there before.
Restaurant or bar? I think the record should be clear on whether it's a restaurant or a bar. Okay.
The
But the
City of
terminology-
Syracuse zoning rules and regulations
Consider it.
does not stipulate or differentiate between bar or restaurant.
Okay.
The action before you on May 15th was a special permit for a restaurant. This proposal met the definition for a restaurant as set forth in Part A of the zoning regulations.
Okay. Just want to be sure. Thank you. So where does that leave us?
I will just add to that the specifics of the floor plan would answer or address any concerns the commission may have had as to whether it was a restaurant or a bar or something else.
Okay.
I would refer you to the floor plans.
Under the zoning law, we're dealing with the term restaurant.
Special permit for a
We
restaurant.
don't have a full drop-down menu, so to speak, for a restaurant.
Now, that will change under rezone,
Wait, but today,
today,
it's different.
it's one definition
Yeah,
for a
one
restaurant.
fits all.
So I would submit we could go forward with the motion. We've had a second. I think we could have deliberated and we can go forward on this special permit.
Yes.
Okay. If we've concluded our discussion, then all in favor of the motion before us, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay.
Opposed?
Any abstentions? Okay, by a vote of 3-1, it looks as though the special permit is approved. Thanks to everyone who participated in one fashion or another in this deliberation. It is a little unusual, and
It is.
appreciate everyone's patience and participation.
Kevin did seeker, I was just gonna say.
Did a little bit of everything.
And that completes our old business, and now we have several new business items.
None of which require seeker action.
Correct.
Question, so what was the Micron Victory Court withdrawn?
No,
The agenda?
it was Corporation Council determined that it didn't need to be reviewed in the same way because it wasn't going to
Common Council.
Quick question for council. Community member has a question. I don't know how you want to go about it, but like, she has a question and I think it's fair.
We do, because last time, the big question for the residents in that area was the music. And it was the floor plan that you were discussing about where, if there was music, where it was gonna be. Was it gonna be outside? Was it gonna be the plaza or in the back? Or, so this wasn't, I think that's why it came back on that.
Everything's intact from the last time. They also reaffirmed the waiver. We voted on it again because of this
Conditions.
complication. There were specific conditions, one of them including that the music setup had to be toward the back of the venue or in the center, so it was further away from the residences. And there were a number of other conditions, absolutely no speakers in the windows, no speakers outside, no music outside. So all of those conditions remain intact. And so
And to clarify, if I'm not mistaken, it's a jukebox.
No, they will have
or-
live, they
or
got
would
it
be
in there
live.
for
Okay,
live
my bad.
entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah. The
You're
jukebox
welcome.
isn't included in that. In fact, that was part of the whole discussion, is
Okay.
that they wanna have live music.
Perfect. Good?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Feel free to hang around for our new business. It's going to be a barrel of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here this evening.
Have a good night.
Take a 5 minutes. 5-minute break?
5-minute recess? Sure.
Okay.
He's like, no, I want to
I did. How are you?
apparently cleared out the room, but we have new business to conduct, or more business to conduct. The next portion is new business. And we start, actually, all our new business are 3 mile limits. And this gentleman is interested in the manliest
Manliest.
version. So that one, I think, comes next. Would you introduce that?
The
item?
first item of new business is 3S 2306, a 3 mile limit subdivision review from the town of Manlius of the Twin Shores subdivision to realign 6 properties situated on or near 5420, 5424, and 5440 North Burdick Street into 6 new lots. Twin Shores Properties LLC is the owner, and David Hercala is the applicant. The purpose of this subdivision is to establish 4 lots for commercial use, 1 lot for multifamily development, and 1 lot to remain as open space. The town of Manlius approved the re-subdivision in November of 2022. The re-subdivision map was reviewed by the City of Syracuse Department of Engineering, and the town of Manlius had declared itself lead agency, made a negative seeker determination on November 8th of 2022.
Okay, thank you. So the engineer's office has reviewed this on behalf of the city, which is the clearance we typically look for. Are there any questions regarding this proposed 3 mile limit subdivision case in the town of Manlius?
All set, thank you.
I'm all set.
Okay, if not, is there a motion for action?
Move approval of the application.
Second.
Discussion on the motion? If no discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The 3 mile limit case in the town of Manlius is approved. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Our next 3 mile limit case.
The next item is 3S 20, excuse me, 3S 20, excuse me, 3S 2307, a 3 mile limit subdivision review from the town of Onondaga, known as the Lot 19 Section C Wheel Tract, to realign 2 properties situated at 4362 and 4374 Outlook Drive into 2 new lots. Mary Kay McMahon Trust and Jacob and Rachel Romanchik are the owners. Daniel McMahon is the applicant. The purpose of this subdivision is to convey a 15-foot strip of land from 4374 Outlook Drive to 4362 Outlook Drive. The town of Onondaga approved the re-subdivision in April of this year. The re-subdivision was reviewed by the engineering department and the town of Onondaga. That is a typo instead of Manlius.
It's Onondaga.
It's Onondaga, okay.
Onondaga made a negative seeker declaration on April 24 of 2023.
Okay, thank you. Discussion or information needed on this 3 mile limit case?
All set. Thank you.
No questions, thank you.
Is there a motion for action on 3S 23-07?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The town of Onondaga 3 mile limit case is approved. We move to the next town. DeWitt?
Yes. The next item is 3S 2308, a 3 mile limit subdivision review from the town of DeWitt for the pathology laboratory subdivision in order to divide 1 property situated at 6620 Fly Road into 2 new lots. Military Trails Medical Properties LLC is the owner, and John Murphy is the applicant. And the purpose of this subdivision is to facilitate future development on 23.26 acres. The town of DeWitt approved the re-subdivision in April of this year. Lot 1 is the 23.63 acres. I will have to verify 23.63 versus 23.26. I apologize for that typo. Lot 1 is 23.63
0.36 acres. The map was reviewed by the engineering department, and the town of DeWitt made a negative secret determination on April 13 of 2023.
Thank you. Any questions on this 3 mile limit case?
All set, thank you.
Okay, is there a motion for action?
I move approval of the re-subdivision.
Second.
Thank you. All in discussion? Excuse me. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? The town of DeWitt 3 mile limit case is approved. We move to the town of Camillus.
3S2309, a 3 mile limit subdivision review from the town of Camillus for the lots 41A and 42A, Terrytown Heights Section B subdivision to divide one property situated at 804 Onondaga Road into 2 new lots. Sojourn, a Free Methodist Church, is the owner, and Christian Michiano is the applicant. And the purpose of this subdivision is to sell part of the property, specifically the part with the, I forget what they called it.
Parsonage?
Yes.
Yes.
The town of Camillus approved the re-subdivision in April of this year. The subdivision was reviewed by the engineering department and the town of Camillus, yes, made a negative secret determination on April 10th of this year.
Any questions on this 3 mile limit case?
All set.
I'm okay.
Okay, is there a motion for action on 3S2309?
Motion to approve.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? That Camillus 3 mile limit case is approved. We have one final 3 mile limit case.
The last item of new business is 3S2310, a 3 mile limit subdivision review from the town of Salina for the Lay Creek Okra site subdivision to divide one property situated in the vicinity of 5107 Lay Creek Road into 3 new lots. Destiny USA Research and Development Park LLC is the owner, and Kevin Spillane from Okra is the applicant. And the purpose of this subdivision is to facilitate the sale of land to Onondaga County. The town of Salina approved the re-subdivision on May 1st of this year and declared a negative secret determination at the same time, and the city engineer department has reviewed the map.
Questions on this 3 mile limit case?
All set.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion then for action on the town of Salina re-subdivision?
Move approval of the re-subdivision.
Second?
Discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. 3S23-10 is approved. We have our authorizations, but is there any other item of business to come to the commission this evening? So it looks like we have 8 new cases and a couple of carryovers from this evening. Is there a motion to authorize those hearings?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say nay. Those hearings are authorized for the 26th. And if there's no other business, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? We are adjourned. And we'll be back on the 26th of the month, this month.
Got to do that.